I had finally found some place that I could be safe, right? That I could use the way I wanted to use, and I wouldn't have to worry about the outside world, And I think people don't think about homelessness. They don't think about like a lot of things. They just think like, oh, they should change their life or whatever, right? They think about it in very broad strokes, but
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together.
Let's dive into the episode.
Hello and welcome back. You're here with Holly, and today I'm joined with Rob Banghart, who is dedicated to shining a light on addiction and homelessness. So I found Rob by watching this documentary on YouTube by Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan on the Las Vegas tunnels, which I highly recommend watching. It really opened my eyes. So in this documentary, Andrew explores the lives of people living in the storm drainage tunnels beneath Las Vegas. So these tunnels were originally built to manage flash flooding in the city, but they've become home to a community of people who are homeless or otherwise marginalized by society. Throughout the documentary, Andrew interviews residents of the tunnels, providing a very real, raw, unfiltered look at their experiences, struggles, and the reasons they ended up living underground. The documentary really sheds light on issues such as homelessness, addiction, mental health, and the lack of affordable housing. So Rob was interviewed in the documentary talking about the Shine a Light Foundation that supports those battling with addiction and homelessness. And Rob actually used to live in the tunnels and struggled with addiction and homelessness, but he has come out on the other side and is now doing such incredible outreach work, which I'm so proud of him. To give you a bit more background on Rob, he is a dedicated leader in Nevada's healthcare sector. As director of community engagement at Crossroads of Southern Nevada, the state's largest indigent detox and substance use disorder treatment center, and outreach director at the Shine a Light Foundation, he plays a crucial role in supporting those battling addiction. He also serves on advisory boards for St. Jude's, Nick's New Beginnings, and the executive board of Shine a Light. His passion for community leadership is very evident, as demonstrated by his 2023 graduation from Leadership Las Vegas. This program allows him to further develop his leadership skills and contribute to the betterment of his community. What makes his journey even more inspiring, like I said, is his own personal triumph. Having been in long-term recovery since 2018, he embodies the hope and possibility of overcoming challenges and turning one's life around. With his dedication, experience, and compassion, Rob continues to make a significant impact in the field of addiction recovery and community outreach. I'm so excited for this conversation and to really shine a light on homelessness and addiction today with Rob, because these issues desperately need attention and something I feel really called to talk about. I live in San Francisco, so I'm frequently confronted with the realities of homelessness and addiction, and it truly breaks my heart. I see someone, at least one person, struggling each and every day. And it's just a constant reminder that we often have no idea what others are going through or the stories that led them to be where they are now. So I really make a conscious effort to smile and acknowledge the people that I see. You really just never know how far a simple smile or a hi, how are you doing, or asking someone their name can go. I've seen so many people's faces light up when I greet them, as if they really haven't been noticed in days. And just by asking their name and treating them as a human being, we allow them to feel seen and heard, which is something I always strive to do. So I really encourage you to do that as well when it feels safe for you. But yeah, I just really encourage everyone to be kind. It's so easy to look down on others or to think that you're somehow better. But, the truth is, they're people just like you and me and deserving of love and respect. This is a crucial aspect of the mental health crisis that we're facing today. It's mental illness. We see it. It's a mental health crisis. And I really feel we need more love, more compassion, non-judgment, understanding for those who are struggling. And it's time to really come together and create change, remembering that every single person has a story and deserves to be treated with love and respect. So with that, let's dive into the episode. Hello, Rob. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today. How are you?
Very good. I'm excited to be here too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I feel like a good place to start would be you sharing a bit about your personal journey, your background, your story, what drives your passion for supporting the homeless, those that are struggling with addiction. I know I saw on your Instagram yesterday that it's been 6 years since you woke up on life support, and that was the beginning of a beautiful journey for you that you're on right now. So I would love to hear more about that, just if you want to share a bit about you. Yeah, I would love to hear.
Okay, so I guess long story short, I'm a lifelong heroin addict. I suffer from substance use disorder my entire life, and I the journey was kind of long. I think there was periods of earlier on where it was like somewhat manageable. It didn't look as bad. I just looked like a bad kid. I just looked like a kid who was making bad decisions. But it progressed over the years, and I've spent about 9 years of my life incarcerated in different chunks and slices, and I would build my life up and then burn it down. I'd build my life up and burn it down, and I know now, looking back at it, most of it was just I was looking for the lowest common denominator, right? I was looking for these spaces that I could exist the way I wanted to and not be judged, right? Because I knew I had an issue. I knew there was something going on. It's in my family. I'm not the only person affected in my family. Hopefully, I'm the last, but I grew up in a very stable home, though. Like, I think it's important to say that like I always had a supportive family. My mom, my dad, I had a younger brother and sister, and I was able to. I had opportunities to live a really good life, but unfortunately, I didn't. I was unable to make those choices. Then I came to Vegas in 1999. I figured, the pressure was on me back there. It's got to be that place. That's why let me get out of here and start fresh. And I came out to Vegas with like $300 in my pocket. I had a buddy out here. It's really weird, the dichotomy of it all, right? Because I was like a chef. I was really successful as a chef. I was working in really nice places. I was doing really good things, but I was a miserable person to be around, and I share that story because the first job I had when I came to Vegas, I worked for Wolfgang Puck, and I worked. At the time, he was a very top chef. He's still a very good chef, obviously, but at the time, he was very popular. And I was about a year and a half into that job. I got a call that he was coming into town, and I thought, for sure, this is where they're going to tell me that I'm getting my promotion. They're going to recognize me, and really, what he did was he sat me down with the chef of the restaurant and basically told me about my alcoholism. He told me about my addiction, the way that I treated people, the way that I was, and how I was wasting my talents. And
Mm.
I made that decision that that couldn't be right. So I did another geographical, and I started bouncing around different restaurants and different places, still able to hold really nice jobs, but I had no money.
Mhm.
Everything went to my addiction. Everything went to, I got married once or twice along the way. I had kids along the way. Like, it was such a Jekyll and Hyde life, and
Mhm.
finally it came to an end. I got arrested. I had done methadone for like 2 years. I was laying in a bed for 2 years straight. The only time I got out of bed was to go take my methadone.
Oh, wow.
I'm a huge proponent of Matt. I'm a huge proponent of it. Me personally, my journey, I wasn't trying to do it the right way.
Mhm.
I just wasn't done. And she finally kicks me out. She gets tired of it, right? It's been 2 years of me sitting on a bed. You know what I mean? She's a saint. I don't know how she held on as long as she did. And I got arrested shortly after that. And then that was my first stint through recovery. I got out of jail, went to a place that was like the last house in the block, and kind of, I did all the things we're supposed to do, and started chasing my recovery, but it wasn't like complete. I don't think that was like a real bottom for me. It was a bad place, but it wasn't a real bottom. And so I was able to put together like 3 years,
Mhm.
and I got asked to speak on my 3 year anniversary, and I don't even know why. I hadn't been to a meeting in so long, but my head was so loud. I went home that night and I picked up, and within a month I was homeless.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
homeless for 5 years, and my homelessness was very progressive, like my addiction. I was in an area called Four-Master, which is like the hotbed for homelessness at the time, and it was in the homeless triangle. And then, eventually I moved into a place called the Moulin Rouge. And I say I moved into, it was like this huge abandoned hotel complex that we all lived in for like about a year.
Wow.
And then eventually I went underground. I had met some people when I was out there, and they were living there, and they kind of introduced me and brought me down there. And I can remember looking at it and thinking, I had finally found some place that I could be safe, right? That I could use the way I wanted to use, and I wouldn't have to worry about the outside world, And I think people don't think about homelessness. They don't think about like a lot of things. They just think like, oh, they should change their life or whatever. Right? They think about it in
Right.
very broad strokes, but homelessness is many more layers, many more details than that. And
Mhm.
I had become so disassociated. Like I lived in the same world that you did, but
Mhm.
I lived in a different planet. And
Right.
so the tail end of my homelessness, I had my hustle was like dumpster diving. I'm a real hardcore gangster. I was like dumpster diving and like crimes of opportunity, like real basic stuff. But I had come up on a whole bunch of jewelry I had found, and I went through my neighborhood, and the Cubans ran my neighborhood, and
Mhm.
I would always go to them and like give them something when I came up on something because they'd always watch out for me because I was always like stealing something. I was always into some stupid trouble, and people were always looking for me. And I did that, and then I went to this business that I would always go to and drop everything off. And he sold dope, so he
Mhm.
would take the stuff, look at it, and then give me money or dope for it. And this day, I had found so much stuff that he was like, "Come back in an hour." I was like, "Okay, no big deal." I went, got high. When I came back, he there was three guys waiting for me, and I knew who they were. They
Mhm.
were other homeless people that I had lived around, and they had kind of the same hustles as me. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if I had burned somebody. Like what I mean, when I'm out there and lost, I don't know. Like I knew for like the last 6 months that I was out there that something bad was going to happen because you inherently inside of me, I know that I'm a good person, and when I'm doing bad things for a long time, like you just know it's going to catch up to you. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so they had a hatchet, a knife, and a pipe, and when they attacked me. And
Mhm.
the nature of what it is that I have, like I could have ran. You know what I mean? I could have ran. I don't know if they would have caught me or not, but I could have ran, and I didn't because on the other side of them was what I needed to get high. And
Mhm.
so they hit me with the hatchet a couple times in the head, stabbed me in the leg with the knife, and hit me with the pipe a couple times. And they killed me. They dragged me onto the train tracks that were right there, and they left me for dead. They took off, and
Mm.
what had happened for me and how God showed up in my life was that that was the fourth business that I was dealing with. Well, the first business, and any of these businesses, if you didn't live like in that area, you had no idea they were there. You couldn't see them from the streets. I'm not even sure they were legal, and none of them are open still to this day. But the first business, there was an overnight security guard that I had kind of cultivated a relationship with over the years, and I had no idea he was even working that night, and he saw it all happen.
Oh, wow.
He called the ambulance, he called the police, and they came and they pulled me off the train tracks. And the train comes, they hit me, they hit me with the paddles, whatever, bring me back to life. And all I see is this train running by, and I'm bleeding. I've got, they, I had been hit in the head with a hatchet. My ear was hanging off. I
Oh
had a
my
lacerated
gosh.
liver, and they gave me a shot of morphine, and I died again. And then I woke up 3 days later on life support. When I woke up on life support, I was, strapped to a bed, all the tubes, the wires, everything, all this beeping. And I had this nurse yelling at me, and she was trying to calm me down because I thought I was still fighting for my life as I
Mhm.
was coming to. And then I felt a hand touch my forehead, and it said, "Calm down." And then I felt the presence of something in that room that I choose to call God that was just overwhelming and peaceful, right? So like God came to me through life support through a shot of morphine, right? Like, cause that's
Mhm.
really what it was,
Mhm.
and I don't try to shortchange those moments. It just comes how it comes. And shortly after that, I was transitioned to a physical therapy hospital for the next month. I had to learn how to what my jaw was broken, so they couldn't wire my jaw shut. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and I spent the next month in that hospital learning how to do some of those things while my jaw healed, while the swelling in my brain went down because I had this headache for the first 3 months of my sobriety that was from the swelling of the brain. And I had this ringing in the center of my brain that didn't go away for like 3 months. And
Wow.
I weighed about 120 pounds,
Mm.
6'1". I walk around at 190 pounds like it's nothing, So
Mhm.
really what happened while I was in that hospital was that Paul showed up. Paul is our executive director, Shine a Light. And I had known Paul from the past. We had some links together, and he just offered me the next step. He offered me a way out. And at the time, it wasn't what we know now as Shine a Light. Obviously, it was very, very grassroots, very, very, just volunteerism. And I said, okay. So when I got out of that hospital, I went to Freedom House, which was an inpatient facility, and I spent the first 60 days of my journey out of the hospital there, kind of learning how to adjust to life again, getting some clinical therapy, and and introduced to recovery again. We did a lot of meetings, and I met a lot of people. And it took me in that inpatient facility. It took me a month to learn how to sleep in a bed.
Wow.
Again, those layers that we don't think about with homelessness is that, like, I hadn't had 3 hot meals in a day in 5 years. I hadn't used a clock. I hadn't a watch, a phone. I hadn't
Mm.
watched TV. I had no idea what was going on in society. I hadn't had to be anywhere. You know what I mean? And my existence while homeless was very primal. What's next? That's
Mhm.
basic survival
Like
stuff.
survival mode. Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
And readjusting to that, slowing my thought processes down, and learning how to be a part of again was, some people might say it took a couple years, but you know what I mean? It was like it took me a while to readjust into society and just to be around people again. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that I had done in so long, and
Yeah.
to build
Mhm.
relationships, all that. And when I got out of that inpatient facility, I went to a sober living, and I started volunteering. And I've just been volunteering ever since. I volunteered that November of 2018. So we never collect, we didn't collect a paycheck at Shine for 4 more years.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I had
Yeah.
jobs, don't get me wrong. I started working at that same treatment center that I went through at about a year sober. And I primarily work with specialty courts. My first job, I was working in the courts. So if you can imagine, at a year sober, I've spent 9 years of my life incarcerated, and now I'm working in the courtrooms with officers and judges and hearing masters. And I was really lucky. I'm a big proponent of mentorship, and Paul and Jeff, obviously, massive mentors for me. But I had this hearing master took me under her wing, and really let me find my voice, right, and showed me how to find my voice. And
Mhm.
she's one of my closest friends today.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel like I was getting so many chills as you were talking. Like, I feel like you've had so many guardian angels like along your path that have really supported you. And because
Yeah.
you went through something very tough that a lot of people will not go through and have not gone through. And I feel like you're here today to share your story and to support others get to the other side. And it just, even from the security guard seeing you, from, just everything, it feels like so many things, so many people were looking out for you without you even realizing that they were looking out for you. That's just so powerful. And yeah, I'm so proud of you for you putting in the work, though. You're the one that put in the work to stay sober, to then, find your way back out of this dark space that you've been into, to get to the other side, to volunteer, to support others. And I feel like you probably can really, people can really see themselves in you that are struggling, that you do support because you've been through it. Yeah, I'm just so happy that you're here. And so, yeah, proud of you for really showing up for yourself and getting to this place today, because it's not easy. Like, it's not, it feels like you were at like the lowest of the low.
I almost have a hard time. I don't want to take credit for it. Right? I feel like it's a group thing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I showed up, but I've had a lot of, like I said, mentors along the way that have helped me to grow, right? And open doors and put me in spaces to grow and challenged me. And, they saw something in me long before I ever even believed any of this was possible. So
And I feel like you're going to do that and are doing that for so many people too.
how this works.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a community. Like, we do need support from other people to see someone else seeing your potential can help you then see yourself in your own potential. So it's all, the community feel is so needed for sure. Yeah.
When you're looking at issues of, like, first and foremost, you don't have to have ever been homeless to understand what it feels like to be hopeless, right?
Right. Mhm.
Anywhere. Maybe we were feeling it at a degree that some people might not feel it, but, like, let's be fair. Like, your world is your world.
Mhm.
You feel sad. Do you feel any less sad than I feel sad? No, like, that's how you feel, right? Like, you have to own those feelings. I think that the community thing is, like, I don't even want to do anything alone anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, like, I want to be a part of, right? That's the connection that we all miss with, social media and phones and all this stuff.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
that's what I think you see this uptick in, like, depression and
Right.
separation, is because we're forgetting that we need each other, right? Like, we're,
Yeah.
regardless of what's going on, it doesn't matter if it's just, I want to hang out with my friends on a Tuesday and go shoot some golf, whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
we all need that connection. And I think that then you look at, like, socioeconomic issues, and it's like, we're not going to fix these issues by ourselves. Like, we have to come together to address these bigger issues, so that nobody can do it by themselves. It takes all the different layers to work together towards something to achieve change.
Yeah. And I feel like people are missing community. Like people are now alone more than they've ever been. I feel like we are at record levels with depression, with anxiety, with all of these things. People are more disconnected from themselves, I feel, than they've ever been, and also disconnected from others than they've ever been. And I feel like there's a lot of separation, a lot of masks that people are wearing, unable to be their authentic selves to actually be real in community and like attract in the people that are like-minded. So I feel like with you too, you show up very authentically. This, you're very open about your story, so other people immediately will resonate with you. And I think that's a huge proponent of finding your right community, people that you can be your authentic self with, so you can attract in those people. So I feel like community is so necessary and so needed, for us all to come together and heal in community. We heal when we're together. We heal when we're witnessed by another person. So there's so much healing that happens by being in community. So absolutely. Yeah. And I'm curious, I want to talk a bit about the Shine a Light organization because you're a part of that in Las Vegas. I just want to hear a bit about how that organization really supports people struggling with homelessness and addiction, like the types of services that you all offer. Because in the documentary I watched, I know a big hurdle that was at least talked about in the documentary was having a ID to be able to even sign up for a job or whatever it may be. That's a huge hurdle that people don't even think about needing an actual ID to have identification. So I know you talked about offering that, a place for people to stay, to have meals, all of that. So yeah, if you want to talk a bit about what the organization offers, I feel like that would be really supportive.
Sure. So Shine a Light, the foundation itself is a two-part foundation. So outreach is out in the community, whether it be in the tunnels, the washes, behind the buildings, just out in the community, advocacy, building the relationships with the unhoused community, right? Letting them know we're here. I say that's so important because the first year that I was homeless, I lived 3 blocks from what is the homeless triangle, the corridor, right, where a large amount of services are, and I didn't even know they were there.
Oh,
Right.
wow. Yeah.
So advocacy and talking to them, communicating with them, building relationships, letting them know that somebody cares, letting them know that there's somebody here, letting them know there's a way out, somebody that has the same experience, and talking to them about what that is, and just getting to know them, right? Like, because they're disassociated, and you want to let
Mhm.
them know that they are a part of this community, and we do care. And then, when they're ready, when they say they're ready, we take them. We have a process which we call the IPATH. This is a instant placement with access to treatment and housing. We deal primarily with the substance use model, right? That's primarily the population that we deal with. We deal with everybody. We help everybody. We try to help everybody we can. But primarily what we see is because once we deal with the substance use, then we can unpack the other things, right? So
Mhm.
detox tends to be the first step, and that's where they engage the continuity case management. That's the second piece, okay? So continuity case management is the unbroken chain of case management, meaning I went through detox 50 times before
Mhm.
I was homeless, 50 times.
Wow.
That means somebody reported 50 times that I was a successful completion. I
Mm.
still went on to be homeless for 5 years, overdosed 10 times, get almost killed with an axe. You know what I mean? So what was the outcome? Those weren't outcomes; they were inputs, right? So we're trying to focus on outcomes, and what Paul came up with was continuity case management. So meaning that we're that person that walks them through this whole process, right? We're not going to hand you a piece of paper and hope you go somewhere. So we're going to get you into detox, get you medically, clinically cleared and assessed for the next level of care. Those case managers work with our case managers. They know who we are because we've cultivated those relationships.
Mm.
So we've got John Doe in detox. John Doe is talking to the case manager from the treatment center and the case manager from Shine a Light. Together, we're coming up with a plan of where he's going to go next and meeting with him. Then the next step, he's transported to the next step where we meet with those case managers, right? The next step might be housing with treatment, meaning they're housed with other clients like themselves while attending treatment and being case managed to get the basic needs and supports met. Doctor, ID, birth, social, possible job training, employment, connected with their recovery, connected with the community, with those examples, right? So the entire time they're being walked through, they have that one constant with them
Mhm.
the entire time. And then from there into sober living where we step up and we start paying for their sober living. We pay it for up to 3 months. And we have 4 phases in our program that are non-punitive phases. They're benchmarks where we can kind of assess and see where they're at and where we need to do. And the a continuity case manager, really where I give this example. His name is Matt, and Matt's given me permission to use his name. So Matt is a very similar story to me, almost very close. And Matt comes in finally during an outreach day. Goes through detox. He goes into housing with treatment at the same facility, and he struggled. He struggled with adjusting to society like I did. But luckily, a lot of our volunteers also work in these treatment centers throughout the community. So, and our case manager, so we were all able to walk him through the process. He graduates the treatment center, goes into sober living. Fast forward 7 sober livings later.
Mhm.
Each sober living, he didn't get kicked out because he was getting high or punching anybody. He couldn't adjust. He couldn't adjust. Each
Mhm.
time, because of our no street policy through our MOUs, they call us and they know us, right? These aren't like business calls. These are like, hey, your guy Matt's really struggling over here. You guys want to come check in on him? We go
Mhm.
over, we see what's going on, we give him ideas. 2 days later, hey, it's not going to work out. Okay, we go pick him up. We take him to the next spot. We introduce him, right? We're that warm handoff the entire way through. The seventh house, I have no idea what was different with that seventh house versus the first house, but something clicked. Fast forward 2.5 years later, he just texted me this morning. He texts me every morning. We text motivational memes back and forth to each other.
Oh,
He's living in independent housing. He lives with another client of ours that graduated also. That's an outcome.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he
Mm,
knows where I'm at. Like, he knows. And like, I could spend the rest of the day talking about this stuff. I'm super passionate about it because
yeah.
it's human lives.
When you say so he checked into 7 sober livings.
No, he didn't check in. We transported him too.
Okay.
He completed detox. He completed 3 months of treatment, then went into sober living because they're levels of care with more freedoms, right?
Okay.
So he went to the first sober living. It didn't work out. The manager called us. Hey, he's not a good fit here.
Is it so it's was he not able to because of the socialization, like he wasn't getting along with the other people?
Yeah,
Okay, because I feel like yeah, like you have to relearn your social skills in a way too of it's just like a total culture shock, I
yeah,
can imagine.
personalities and da da da. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting. Oh, I'm so proud of him, I'm so happy. That's amazing that you guys still text too, like, to help, it's like that community to help continue to support one another to, show up another day, you know?
I think what's super important about it is this. His story, if I looked at it, everything leading up to him coming in was very similar to mine.
Mhm.
Since then, his pathway has been completely different, very different, right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful, right? Like we believe that the system as it is, it's kind of like a house painter. I use visual examples. I'm a visual learner. So
Yeah.
if you can imagine somebody taking out a spray gun and painting a house, right? Look, ma, nice shiny coat of paint on the house, right? But like you're talking about human lives, dude. Like how do we want to be like Michelangelo? We want to
Mhm.
help you paint your picture within the
Mhm.
frameworks, right? But this very loose framework of support and love. How can we help you paint your picture?
Mhm.
You're going to have great examples in your life. You're going to have people that are going to hold you accountable and talk to you and love on you and walk you through it. And you're going to have to do some work. But like where you end up, that's your journey, right? Like
Right.
who knows, right? And I say that out of love. Like his pathway is very different than mine, but he ended up in a beautiful place.
Like he's exactly where he needs to be,
That's
you
it.
know?
That's
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like too, it sounds like the organization isn't just about numbers. Oh, let's bring people in and then, it's actually really caring for people and being there along the way. It's not just yeah, showing up, okay, come here, we make money if you're here, whatever it may be. It sounds like a nonprofit organization too, but it's very much about the people for the people. That's kind of what I feel from it, which is amazing, which is what we need more of, because we are dealing with people's lives. They need people to really show up and really care, like know that they're cared for. It's not just you're just another person, you're just another number. It's like, no, we see you, we want to be here for you, and we want to help you. Let me hold your hand along the way.
we're shining a light on the community and the resources available to them and allowing walking them
Mhm.
through it, right? Because it's confusing. Like if I walked out of my office right now, I could find a billboard with a lawyer, some weed, a strip club, a casino,
Mhm.
homeless and living in crisis. There's nothing, right?
Right. Right.
And it's the same thing with resources within the city. It's hard. If you don't know, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. And what I feel too, it's like shining the light in one of the darkest places. It's like being the light. Hey, I know it's really dark for you right now. Let me be the light for you and show you that there's a way out, and let me take your hand and help you find the way. It's like really shining a light in such a dark, not only headspace, but actual like space, even in the tunnels. It's like the tunnels in Las Vegas are very dark. So going down there and trying to be the light in that tunnel and like get them out and show that there's another way to live, and let's do this. We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. But I also want to talk about too, I want to see if there's any therapy that you all offer, because I know my husband struggled with alcohol. He's been sober for 2 years, which I'm so proud of him, but he's been doing a lot of inner work, like looking at his wounds from his childhood and really understanding where the drinking, where the over drinking, the abuse of the drinking started in the first place. And like he was really understanding running from pain, running from these young wounds. And I always say, like you said, you can have the best parents in the world that provide everything for you. They do the best that they can, but that doesn't mean there aren't wounds along the way. I feel we all have these younger parts of us that are very wounded. And I know Dr. Gabor Mate, I'm not sure if you've heard of Dr. Gabor Mate before, but he's done so much extensive work on really seeing the correlation between past trauma and addiction. And then addiction can lead to homelessness. You know, his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, is such a good book. I highly recommend if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction. But kind of shining the light on, like, it's constantly running from and dissociating from pain. It becomes a survival strategy. So I'm just curious if you all offer therapy, or if they do that in their own ways with going to the sober living, all of that kind of stuff, because I feel like doing the inner work is so crucial to recovery.
100%. First and foremost, addiction is mental health, right?
Right.
So that's the obvious, right? Like through the treatment centers, they typically do PHP, IOP, OP individuals, and then from there they can be assessed to if there's more that they need. Obviously, we have a therapist here on site for our not on site as a part of our Wings program, our women's program, dealing with some of their traumas specifically. We typically at the benchmarks will assess from there. Obviously, we don't push any particular form of recovery on. A lot of us do 12-step work. So it's kind of a solo journey, right? And
Okay.
I think when you have, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean that you have a case manager who's in recovery, right? And your husband's in recovery, right? It may look different for me, but it's all recovery, right? Recovery. That's a big part of it, is like the individual meetings with your case managers, with your therapist, and deciding where you want to go from that, right? Like what you're seeing, if you feel you need more. Like, I'll give you an example. I started therapy about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for about 6 months. I just needed to check in. You know what I mean? I needed
Mm-hmm.
some outside voice, some outside voices that weren't a part of my everyday life to kind of bounce some things off of and talk, and just did a check in. And I've since done the same thing with staff, right? Where I just pull up to them and say, "Hey, have you tried therapy? You seem like you're struggling with some stuff." It's just like that individual journey, right? Like, unfortunately,
Right.
when we walk in from years of homelessness and addiction, therapy is not high on our radar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's another example that we give. Like, they're going to get the basic run through of clinical treatment while they're there, and then if needed, can continue. Of course, we're a huge proponent of.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like it's kind of like getting out of survival mode, getting you out of survival mode, getting you back in your body here to get you back like alive, almost really being back in your body. And then, okay, next step, once you feel ready, then diving in to the inner work if you can and feel ready to do that.
It's
Yeah, I
important.
can, that
You're,
makes sense.
you're dealing with people in crisis, right? You want to get
Right, right, right.
stabilized. And I think a lot of the treatment is, I don't want to say broad stroke, but it is, right? Broad stroke in the sense of dealing with the larger issues. And once you clear those things up, then you can start to focus in areas and spaces that you feel you need, right? Because I use the example, the person that came out before me, his story is completely different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had had to do what I did, or if I had to do what he did, one of us wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ability to cater their journey within soft parameters allows them to, and they take ownership. That's the key, right?
Yeah.
This is
Mm-hmm.
theirs. It's not mine.
Right. Yeah. It's going to look different for everyone. Absolutely. I feel like that's just life in general. Like there's no one right way to do things. It's going to look different for everyone. There's so many tools out there
Yeah.
and finding the tools that work best for you. I just specifically know with addiction there it often comes from so much pain. Like these younger parts. So learning how to really heal and like go back to these younger parts and love on these younger parts can support you in really that long-term recovery. But sometimes that's 12 steps for someone, sometimes that's therapy. I know for my husband, he's really resonated with a men's group. There's plant medicine that's facilitated sometimes, and then also just leaning on community. And so that's going to look different. Maybe other people wouldn't resonate with plant medicine and look at that in a different way. So there's so many different avenues, all leaning back to connecting deeper with yourself, to understand yourself, to come more home to your heart, come home to who you are, learn how to love yourself. It's important to know, yeah, it's going to look different for everyone. Absolutely. I'm curious. So has therapy supported you, or what do you feel like has supported you the most? Has it been mainly like community really supporting you?
I mean, for me, it's been 12 step. That's been my
Okay.
12-step community. Obviously, that's all. For me, it's all tied in together. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
basic principles of service, you know what I mean? Giving back. Like for me, that's what helped for the large part. I've always kind of sprinkled in other things. I like to read a lot. I like to, listen to different podcasts, different speakers, and get motivation from that. And therapy sprinkled in. I did some EMDR early on.
Oh, I've heard really good things about that.
Trigger, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I know relapse is really common in when you're struggling with addiction. I know that can happen, and I always say it's like not getting upset with yourself, like seeing how far you've come. This is just a minor setback. Let's continue to move forward. You already proved to yourself that you can do it. You should be so proud, not a setback. But I'm sure there's a lot of shame that comes along with maybe a relapse. And I'm curious if how you or how Shine the Light supports people if they do relapse, or like they sign in to Shine the Light and then they leave and then they go relapse and then they come back and then they do this. It's like, how do you support people? Because yeah, and just not cause more shame, and no, just bring it with a non-judgmental lens, just continue to show love and compassion. I'm just curious how you deal with, yeah, if someone relapse in that way.
I mean, for us, it's pretty normal. You know what I mean? I don't mean
Yeah.
that relapse is normal. I mean that the road, everybody's journey is bumpy, and relapse does not have to be a part of your story in any way, shape, or form, but you're dealing with multiple issues at the same time. You know what I mean? And there was two guys in my office today that relapsed and were homeless for a while and are now coming back in. You know what I mean? And the door's never closed. Like that's it. The door's never closed. Like that's I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like we have no idea what it's going to take for you to get ready to finally be able to do this and stick with it. But we're just going to love on you until you do and keep giving you more chances. And unfortunately, like obviously, if you burn bridges at a treatment center, you can't go to that one. Okay, we'll move you over here. Or, you know what I mean? There's steps we have to take, but they're not, nothing about it is punitive. We've all been here before. We know how it is.
And I'm just curious from your perspective, why is there so much resistance to get support? You know what I'm saying? Like since you were homeless for a while, struggling with addiction for a while, what held you back from getting support, or were you just not aware that there was support out there?
I just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Paul says it, our director, he says it best. It's like, I can see your house behind you. Okay, it looks nice. Okay, Holly, come with me right now. Just leave everything you know. Come with me. I'm going to show you how to buy, a mansion. You're gonna have all the money in the world. Just come with me. You're right minded, and you're gonna think to yourself, I worked really hard for this place. I don't know if I want to leave. I don't know this guy. You know what I mean? Now think about it the same way with homelessness, right?
Mhm.
You or me might see, okay, that's just a cardboard box and a mattress, and that's their entire world. So you're asking them to give up their entire world, a world like I just told you that through paper cut situations has gotten so small.
Mhm.
That's it, and that's what they can control. Now you're asking them to give that up, come with you, show up for group, go to meals. That like it seems so overwhelming, right? Like
Mhm.
same way it would feel to you if I said leave your house right now and come with me. All the
Right.
fear would kick in. All we just think because they're homeless that it's different, but the thought process is the same.
Mhm.
And if they're not ready to give up all that, if they're not ready, I have 1,000 conversations in the last 6 years with people. I just give me till Tuesday, give me till Wednesday, give me, you know what I mean? They're trying to wrap their head around the idea of what they're doing, and it seems scary.
Mhm.
Through us building relationship with them and communicating with them and talking with them, the day will come that they'll just say, okay, you know what I mean? Be ready.
That's a really good way to look at it because it can feel just so overwhelming. Like that's all that you know. And there's, it's human to have a fear of change. Like that's something that all of us humans really can struggle with is just this fear of the unknown, fear of change. So it's like,
Yeah.
even if there is someone saying like, hey, come with me, it can get better. It's like, but no, I want, like even that fear of change. So I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it and really good way to explain it to really see it. I'm curious because I know that you said that you go into the tunnels too and try to get people to let them know about the organization and that there is a way out. What is like, yeah, I guess what are you met with the most when it comes to that?
Oh, so many person. Luckily, they all know us now, right? They all know who we are for the most part, and we've got about 600 miles of tunnels in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
washes, tunnels, so it's a lot, and we've been able to cultivate some really beautiful relationships. And it's been, Paul took over 7 years ago, so you figure we've probably pulled out 500-600 people at least, and
Wow.
they've since, not all, but a lot, have come back to volunteer and be those examples. And they go to the areas they were homelessness in, right? And like more examples and things. And for me, I've seen a lot over the last 6 years. I call it chopping wood, right? We just got to keep chopping wood.
Hmm.
I have no idea what got me sober. Right? The day that I got attacked, I had no inclination that I wanted to get sober that day.
Hmm.
So who knows, right? What's going to happen for somebody that's going to get them ready to say, okay, you know what I mean, or which time it's going to work, or I kind of let go of that idea. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I can't get emotionally attached to that idea because the work that we do is, it's very personable, it's very emotional. Sometimes it's very connected to human beings. It's very important
Hmm.
work, but it's like being a nurse in an emergency room and crying every time you see blood. I can't. You know what I mean? I got to stay
Right.
focused on the work, and I think about this all the time. I'm a jokester a little bit when I'm out there. Right? Like they know me. I've been doing this for so long. They know who I am, and
Hmm.
at least on my route. And there's a girl that always comes out. She's an older lady, and she'll hear us because we announce ourselves when we walk up. Shine a light. We're here. You guys need any supplies? And she'll go, "Is that Rob?" And
Oh.
she comes out and she's like, "I'm gonna kick your butt today." She comes out like this, and we'll joke for a second, then we'll hug, and she'll start crying. And
Oh.
she never has given me any inclination that she ever wants to get out. But what's happened is that she's seen us for long enough, and that community has seen us for long enough to know that we're authentic in what we do. That
Hmm.
she's seen us pull people out from her tunnel and then them come back living good lives. And so she's kind of become like an advocate for us, and a lot of them do, where they're like, "Oh, go check over here. This guy's struggling," or "Hey, have you seen this guy? Go look over here." And
Oh.
so I think authenticity just breeds more. You know what I mean? And that's what we
Right.
focus on. And a lot of them have come out maybe once or twice and gone back out. And when we see them again, we're like, "Hey, how you doing?" We joke around with them. You know what I mean? And just
That's so beautiful too. I feel like it's just also being a consistent in their lives and just showing that you're not giving up on them. You still care. You'll still go down there. Even if they don't want to come out at that time, you're still going to be there and see them and speak with them. I feel like you're building such a beautiful relationships and just even building that trust in that, just that constant, like showing that you just care and you're not going to give up. I think that's so beautiful. I love that so much.
we do a lot. Like too is like if I go down there and they're injured, And I'll say, listen, I'll take you to the hospital and we'll bring you right back. Like, if
Mhm.
you don't want to come in, I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
A lot of
Oh,
a lot of acts like that. You know what I mean? That and the whole team over the years. That's just
yeah. It feels like so much compassion and non-judgment, which is exactly what we need more of. Like that's how change happens when it's coming from the lens of unconditional love, compassion, non-judgment. That's how people will really see and hear you. It just feels like specifically you, since I'm talking with you, it just feels like you go down there and it's like I'm no better than you. Like let's just being very level, just being a person and really just caring about other people. Like I just feel like that is what we need more of. So I'm so grateful to hear that you're doing work like this, specifically with people that are homeless and struggling with addiction. They need love. They just need love. They need a light. They need the light. So you being able to shine that light is just so powerful, and you're doing more for them than I think that you can even really comprehend. Even if they don't come out, you just showing up is doing something for them. Yeah, and I think I just want to talk about too the stigma that comes along with struggling with addiction and homelessness. Like, maybe what do you wish people knew? Because I feel like a lot of people think that homelessness is a choice and that, oh, they're just lazy. But what they don't realize is that there's so much pain. There's so much pain. And I don't feel like we live in a society that really helps people get back on their feet. Even if someone wanted to, there's so many obstacles and hurdles that people have to jump through. And it's not as easy as people think. And I just feel like if someone's choosing to be homeless, that shows how, like, what a bad place that they're in mentally. Like, I don't feel like anyone would choose that life. And if they are, think about how bad it must have been for them. So I think, yeah, just what do you wish people knew? I feel would be, yeah, something I want to ask you.
I think what I always think about is that's somebody's brother, that's
Mm-hmm.
somebody's mom, that's somebody's sister. That's somebody loves them, somebody cares about them. I read a book recently. It was What Happened to You,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I think about. What happened to you? How did you end up here? How did you get here? My story was that I believe I was born with alcoholism. I don't think that it came along. Right? I felt insecure and not a part of my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And drugs and alcohol was a solution to that for me. Right? That's just
Mm-hmm.
my journey. So I wonder what happened to them. I wonder how they ended up there. And there's always, I'm sure there's a percentage of people that enjoy being homeless. Of course, is there a percentage of people that enjoy not having the responsibility of life? Yeah, it's a lot. I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot, but we need to get to the root of that. We need to figure it out because they're a part of our community. Like that, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I really thoroughly believe this in all my heart that like how we treat the less fortunate, it says much more about us than it ever does about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just really, I love that. What happened to you? Everyone has a story. Every single person has a story. No one is better than anyone else. It's like, what happened to you? How did you get here? And like they're, humanizing people that are struggling, people that are homeless, and not just judging them immediately. It's like there's a story there. That's someone that's your brother and sister. I feel like we all are here together in community. We all are one. We are all brothers and sisters. So that's someone that could be you at any given moment. That's something I always think about too, is that could be any one of us if something bad happened, so it's just so important to know that that's another human and know that there's a story behind that.
I
Yeah.
always go back to if you had to guess how many people in America live paycheck to paycheck out of 10, how many do you think?
I would probably say 8. I don't know. I feel like it's way higher, but we don't realize that.
7 out of 10.
Really interesting.
So think about 10 people in your life. Which 7 are you okay with being homeless?
Mhm.
That's the world we live in today, And
Right.
once you slip below that line, once you can't pay your rent, once you can't, what do? You immediately lose everything, right? Now you're
Mhm.
homeless. It's almost impossible to get yourself out without help. It's almost impossible. And then you've been out there and it only takes 21 days to form a habit. Now you've been homeless for 5 years. Now some group comes along and says, hey, leave everything you know and come over here with us. More trauma, right? More traumatic experiences happening, even though it's for a positive, right? And we're trying to get them there. So there's
Mhm.
so It's so much deeper than what. And if you walked up to a 7-Eleven right now with your hand bleeding, crying, going, "I need help," everybody's going to surround you. "I need help." But if you
Mhm.
walk up having a mental health episode, nobody knows what to do,
Right.
or
Mhm.
they're judging you, right? Or they're,
Mhm.
I mean, if you're homeless, they're judging you because you're homeless, not understanding that that's a person in crisis. whether
Mhm.
whether they're even trying to get help, that's a person in crisis. That's not normal, right? That's a person
Mhm.
in crisis. So how do we treat those people? We need to treat them like that they're in crisis, that they're in this distress. That I think we have this expectation, when people are intoxicated, when they're high, when they're running around, they're doing crazy things, it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, it's not like I have this like rose colored glasses on, you know what I mean? Like, I understand that there's a dichotomy to it sometimes too, right? But at the end of the day, they're human beings.
Yeah, just like every one of us. Yeah. And I feel like too, in the society we live in, it's just getting more and more expensive too. So it's making it harder and harder for people to get off of the streets, even if they wanted to. So there's a lot of changes that I feel like need to happen, and realizing again that could be you. So how can we show up with more love and compassion and understanding and less judgment and hate towards others? It's like mental health is, even though you can't fully see it, it's there, like just how you said, like if I had my hand bleeding, yeah, you can see that I'm wounded.
Yeah.
Mental health is, you can't quite see it. So it's harder to comprehend. But knowing even if someone in your life that you love is struggling with anxiety or depression or PTSD or whatever it may be, how can you show the same love and compassion to someone you see on the street to someone that you love? It's just really stepping more into our hearts. And I think that there's just such a divide. And I feel like we all really need to learn how to show more love and compassion for one another and really see people. And that's why I love the work that you're doing, because you really are seeing people that need to be seen and need to be loved and heard and given a voice. Yeah, I'm just so grateful for the work that you are doing and for the work that your organizations that you work with are doing, because it's so important and it's so necessary for real change to happen. And I'm just curious, like, are there any systematic changes that you think are necessary to address in homelessness and addiction on a larger scale in Las Vegas? Like, is there any like systematic changes that need to be put in place for actual real change to happen?
Not, I don't want to get in trouble. No,
Yeah.
I would say holistically that we believe that we have done that, and are doing that, right? And not that we are the ones, like the continuity case management. What it does is connects the city. So it's
Mhm.
not just this treatment center working over here, this sober living over here. It's all of us together, and how
Mhm.
we connect. So we're kind of the glue, right? In the sense of identifying partners that we can work with that have standards, right? That are going to treat our clients well and then do great work. And there's a lot of them here. They're not working together to the same degree, right? They're all doing great work. They're amazing people. But how do we get them all to work together? How do we connect the dots?
Mhm.
Create journeys and pathways for clients that they can walk the entire way and we can walk with them and get them into independent housing, right?
Mhm.
Instead of the paper slip referrals, instead of, okay, go here, okay, I'll see you later. No, how do we connect, and just light the path for them? How do we, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Really, what happens is that we become a referral source for all of these places, so that benefits them, and they're good people doing great work.
Mhm.
So then it's more support. So one of the treatment centers about a month and a half ago, their van broke down. They couldn't do a DMV run. They called us to let us know. We said, hey, we got you. Boom, went down, picked up the clients, took them to DMV, came back. So we're helping the facilities too,
Mhm.
helping them to stay. You know what I mean? Like, you would have to come here. I could show you. I mean, all the things, like the board with all the different places and all the different clients all over the place. And, we'll get donations through our partnerships. And if we can't use it, we send it somewhere else. Or if they call us, hey, I got a client that needs clothes, send them down. Like, open door, just come. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just want to be a safe space to help connect the community, and open up more beds and more places for people to get off the streets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's never been as bad as it is now because prices are so high, everything's so
Mhm.
high. It's insane.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing it in San Francisco as well. You've probably heard of the Tenderloin, and that's just where it's a very condensed area of just a lot of homelessness, drug abuse, and it's really hard to see. It's really hard. And I know they're trying to do even, having facilities where you can go and get clean needles and support them in that way to stop spreading diseases and all of that kind of stuff, which some people have a problem with that because they think that that's enabling the behavior and all of that. So there's just so much divide. It feels so much divide. And I feel like we all just need to work together and, really pave a path forward. And it's just so necessary to really set up, set up ways in which these people that are struggling can really get support, because like you said, most of them are struggling with mental health. So it's like getting off the streets, and then how can we support deeper into supporting their mental health once they are getting clean and for long lasting change. It feels like there needs to be so many people working together to create long lasting changes, and it's going to take some time, I think, to get there, but I feel like there are people out there that are trying to do this work, including yourself. So yeah, just it has to change on a systemic level though first, I feel.
I mean, let's be fair, right? Like George Carlin, he said something, and I don't care about his politics or anything like that, but he said a line. He said, "Nobody's figured out how to monetize helping the homeless."
Oh,
He's like, the second that you figure that out, it's going to be Shine a Light, sponsored by Pepsi, Coca Cola, Denver Bronco. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
no one's figured out how to do that. This is not but it's like the most important work. You're talking
It
about
is.
human lives. Like, how could that not be important?
Yeah, it's such a really too, because I'm very spiritual in that sense too, and I feel like we are all one, and when one person is struggling, we are all struggling. Like we are all one. We all are a collective. So we all, even though you aren't living that life, that is contributing to the overall energy. There's so many people struggling. So if they're not okay, we're not all going to be okay until everyone's okay, and everyone's not always going to be 100% okay. But I feel like we all have to be looking out for one another. We are all human. The people that are struggling are human too. And if they're struggling, we are struggling. So how can we start to really shift that and start to see people as people instead of just it just feels like so many of us have become so selfish and only consumed in our own lives and don't realize how many people out there are really struggling, and how can we start to really support one another so we can all kind of rise together.
I think it's hard work.
Right, it is. Oh, I can't. Yeah.
And it's like, it's very, yeah, it's just hard work. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
something. It's like, trying to change a cruise ship, right? This isn't a speedboat where we just turn the wheel and it goes.
Right.
This is a massive systemic issue that we're turning that wheel, and that boat is just turning real slow.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of all of you guys that are really in that, submersing yourself in that world and really in the trenches of it, it feels like, in a way.
We have a great team, great volunteers, and definitely some
Yeah.
community partners, everybody.
Hey guys, we are super excited to announce the launch of something new. We will be launching something called a community on a platform called School. That's SKOOL. It's similar to a Patreon, but better. It's a platform for learning and, well, community. Basically, it will give you access to exclusive content from both Holly and I. Holly is a certified holistic health coach, and she is also a certified embodiment coach. I have a degree in kinesiology and received a certification in personal training. I also am an advancing student in mediumship development and have been channeling spirit for as long as I can remember. Through our own experience and journeys, as well as our knowledge gained through education, we will be curating content to specifically aid in your journeys back home to self. This will include monthly guided meditations, guided embodiment practices, pick-a-card readings, energy healing, guided workouts, and healthy recipes. It will also include important teachings to help you become the most embodied version of yourself. Some topics will include how to connect with your intuition, how to tap into the psychic within you, how to heal your inner child, how to face and understand your ego, how to heal your relationship with your body and food, and more. This platform will also allow for conversation and connection with others who are also part of the community, giving you the opportunity to potentially meet other like-minded individuals who are also on the path of becoming the best versions of themselves. This path is not easy and at times can be isolating. We are not supposed to do this alone. Community is so healing and so important, so we hope this will provide support for you regardless of where you might be on your journey. It's only $22.22 a month, where you will have unlimited access to all of the content as well as the new content rolled out monthly. It will also give you a $10 discount on our monthly healing circles. Holly and I both struggled with self-image, self-confidence, knowing our self-worth, and knowing what it means to truly love ourselves majority of our lives. The truth is that we are not taught how to properly love ourselves in this day and age, and we are on a mission to make change. We owe it to the future generations to come. We believe that it is important to love your mind, body, and spirit cohesively in order to truly step into the highest, most authentic version of yourself. We hope to see you there, honey.
Well, I wanted to see, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on? Anything that you want to end on?
No, just get involved. You know what I mean? Like, you want to make a difference, and you got to roll your sleeves up. I think we tend to get lost in the details of thinking things need to look a certain way, and I told you earlier, I found God through a shot of morphine on life support. You know what I mean? Like, just get involved. You know what I mean? Just get
Right.
involved. Like, you'll find your thing, and not everybody comes out to the tunnels with us. You know what I mean? Some people just share our posts or donate, whatever, right? Like, there's so many different ways to get involved and help your community, and look into the organizations that you donate to.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I'm so proud of you for your journey, for you staying, clean and sober and trying to be the light in your community and support so many other people. So, yeah, I'm just so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work that you do. So, thank you for showing up for yourself first, showing up for others, and yeah, really doing this work. Like, it's so needed. So, yeah, just thank you. Yeah. And then we'll have your personal, and then also the Shine the Light website. We'll have that in the show notes too. So if anyone's interested in looking into that, I'll have that in there.
Cool.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time, Rob.
Of course, thank you.
Awesome. With that, thank you all so much for listening. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.